All right, folks, I have 6:30, so we're going to get started. We're so excited to have you here tonight for this webinar, Inflammation Dousing the Flames, and we are so excited to share what we've learned with you and some amazing insights from our founder of Optavia, Dr. A. And we're just going to get started. I want to introduce you to our hosts today, these two beautiful women on the to the side of me, I guess I should say. My name's Kat Fuller. This is Sarah Flake and Stephanie Whiting. And these are some of my favorite people in the world. And not only are they beautiful and smart and successful, but they're super fun. And they have a great life and a great outlook on life. And they have some really cool stories. We're all going to share our stories throughout the evening tonight. And specifically about, the inflammation we felt in our lives and been able to kind of beat it. So we're just going to get rocking and get started. We want to get into the goods here. So this is just us having fun, because that's what we love to do, right? So Dr. A teaches that the daily repetition of actions and behaviors that will help you transform your current state of health to your desired state of health and well-being this is our daily habits, our daily actions. It's not just because I eat a salad one day, I'm going to feel good tomorrow or lose weight tomorrow. It's the things that we do over time that really make a difference. And as we talk today and share our stories, and we have some amazing stories that we want to share with all of you today, keep in mind what you want to do daily. What in your future is so compelling that you're willing to change your daily habits enough to repeat little small micro habits and transform your current state into a state of health and well-being. I think Steph's going to jump in and share with us this crazy slide you see. And some of you may have been on the webinar last week and recognize we're kind of starting the same, because we really do have this holistic approach that we want to address. And as you can see, inflammation's on there. So go ahead, Steph, share with us your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Kat. I love this picture of the sumo wrestler, because this is how I feel when I'm experiencing inflammation. Everything just feels really swollen. And sometimes we don't even recognize it. So there are consequences of, inflammation in our modern life. One of the consequences, it's kind of weird to call it a consequence, but it's cravings. If you are experiencing cravings and you feel like you just can't get away from that afternoon sugar rush that you need, like I was always going after gummy bears or chocolate at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Cravings are a big part of that. Low energy, that's another one. Always needing a nap. Weight gain, obviously, high cholesterol and blood pressure, diabetes, metabolic syndrome. Have any of you heard from friends or family, oh, once you hit 40, watch out, it's going to happen to everybody? I always heard that growing up. So there are a lot of consequences that we might not attribute to inflammation, but it's very, very interesting. Go ahead and switch slides.
All right, you guys, so we're going to be pretty thorough tonight. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what we'll be going through. First, why is it important to understand how your immune system affects your optimal health? A lot of us, we can't necessarily always feel what's happening inside of our body. So it's really good to know, even though we can't feel it. And then figure out how this is showing up and how we can manage this, and then finally give you some really concrete tips of how to reduce inflammation in your environment in some really pretty simple and fast-acting ways. To start it out, I want to have my friend Tiari share her story. I've known her for about 7 years now, and we've been in this health battle together, and it's been really awesome just to see how dedicated she has been to her health. So I'm going to head and, okay, Tiari, you're off mute.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah and Kat and Steph. This is something, inflammation was something that I thought I knew about until a couple years ago. 2 years ago, I found myself in a lot of pain, chronic foot pain. I don't think I remember one day for several years where my feet didn't ache. And then I was finding that my hands were hurting, my wrists were hurting. I thought it was because I was doing my push-ups wrong, or like the stances that I was using and lifting weights was aggravating things. And come to find out, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And to say that that diagnosis flipped my world upside down, it totally did. I didn't think it would, but it really did. It's like everything screeched to a halt. I was upset. I was worried. I was scared. Even though I had been living the healthy habits and had been a health coach for so long, I thought, how am I not, like, how is this happening to me? I've been living healthy habits for 5 years now. Why is this happening? And I realized that, sometimes things happen, especially with our health, that are out of our control. And autoimmune disease is one of those things. And so I decided to stop feeling sorry for myself, because I've spent plenty of time feeling sorry for myself. And I decided I've got to really anchor myself in these habits. And so I started doing and practicing the things that Dr. Anderson talks about and that you guys will cover, I'm sure, today about inflammation. But I tell you, like, that was an enormous relief to feel like I had a bit of control and a sense of understanding of what my body can do, in addition to the medication that they had recommended for me to be on. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, I went to my rheumatologist and I sat down with him. And as soon as I walked in the door, he just said, "You look amazing. How do you feel? You just look amazing." And I told him, I said, I feel great. I've lost 30 pounds. I had my 5th baby since being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I've lost 30 pounds and I feel so good. I don't have any pain in my feet. I don't have any pain in my hands. I know, and I can pay attention to when things start to flare up. I know what to do, and it's living these healthy habits. It's dialing into my nutrition, taking care of my stress, and taking care of the things that would otherwise throw me into more flare-ups. It's amazing, and I can't say enough about what inflammation control can do for your life, not just to make you feel well, but to also mentally help you feel well.
Tiari, I love starting off this with that powerful story. And I know she sent me a picture I meant to put in the PowerPoint of her hands and how they used to look swollen all the time. And now look at her little hands on her phone, just little tiny fingers. And I know I have a lot of friends that struggle with rheumatoid arthritis, and it's so hard to function. So just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. So why is our immune system so important to our optimal health? Well, Dr. A says the negative effects of an overactive immune system aren't felt overnight, but over time. If we keep our immune system in action on bad habits such as eating unhealthy foods, avoiding exercise, neglecting our sleep, that's one of mine, or handling stress poorly, then our bodies will begin to age and break down prematurely. And as you see here, some of you may be familiar with our 6 macro habits of health here. In Optavia, it's not just about healthy weight management. That's just one of our macro habits that you can see. And with all 6 macro habits are involved in this part, because unless the body's optimized, then the opportunity for our body to be attacked by our surroundings is a threat. If the assault doesn't just come from the world around us, but from our inner world, which we're going to talk about more later, it comes from, especially if we haven't provided our bodies with the proper type of nutrition or sleep or movement or the things I mentioned earlier, then an even balanced relationships, which, as you can see, all these macro habits kind of all fit in together. When we work with all of these together, and our immune system is not just about our weight, it's not just about helping us stay healthy or not sick. It includes all 6 of these macro habits. So we're just going to jump in and share a little bit more about this.
Okay, so just get really basic here. What is inflammation? Think about when your body gets sick. Let's say you get a cold and suddenly, there's maybe a bacteria or a virus in your body. Your cells release a distress signal, which triggers your immune response. And basically your body starts sending out white blood cells to attack the invaders and get rid of them. Your body starts swelling up in those areas. You release a little bit more blood from the blood vessels in those areas. It becomes a little bit inflamed. It attacks the invaders and it gets them out. It's typically a really good thing. Inflammation is all about fighting invaders and getting them out of your body. All right, so let's move to the next slide. Now, the problem with living in 2020 is we have chronic inflammation. So the difference between acute and chronic inflammation is acute inflammation happens when you have a sickness, or maybe there's like an injury, there's a high distress and your body goes into action. Chronic inflammation is what we're going to be talking about more in this webinar. And this is where there are lots of little tiny things getting into our bodies that are invaders, or signals happening to our bodies that trigger a stress response that creates chronic inflammation. And so it's a small release of these white blood cells, either to attack artificial ingredients or toxins in the water that you're drinking. And it's not a huge response, but it creates low-grade chronic inflammation in your body, which overall, as Kat was saying before, will eventually wear down your skin faster, your organs faster. It creates a lot of dullness. It can create some long-term pain. And so what we're going to be hopefully talking about here is how to recognize the symptoms of this chronic inflammation and some ways to move past that. All right, and then we've got Brenda, who I was, trying to find some people who had really good stories with this. And when I heard Brenda's story, I was like, I need to have you on this webinar. Brenda, are you unmuted? Oh, let me unmute you. Hold on. Can anyone undo this? Unmute my audio. Can anyone help? Oh, there we go. No? Okay. It was, there we, oh, it was, okay. I'm going to stop touching this. Amber, are you unmuting this? Let me try one more time. Dang it.
Brenda, you should be able to try to unmute yourself after we hit it for you.
Oh, there I am.
Okay.
I had to do my part. Who knew? All right. Thanks. I am so excited to talk about this because this is what has changed my life. And I say that with a lot of passion. All the way to the left, you will see that there's a before and after picture. And that 2018 picture is an athlete. You wouldn't know it. I mean, I don't look terrible, but I'm an athlete. And I also was teaching 15 fitness classes a week. And so I was really like in the go. But I hit 40. Oh my gosh, we talk about 40. And all of a sudden, I think I just ignored the warning signs. And so the warning signs decided to creep up on me and tell me, hey, you're not doing so great. And so I started to get super sleepy. I was dozy all the time. And then my feet, and we talked about feet, my feet started to hurt. Like I would get out of bed and I just looked like I was old. I would creep into my bathroom and I was like, oh my gosh, it must be my shoes, right? Has to be the shoes. And so then I tore my ACL, I had surgery, and things just kind of went down scale from there. So I gained 25 pounds, not meaning to. I was still moving, doing PT, but I was also eating so bad. Okay, not so bad. I just had cookie breakfast for Sunday, that kind of thing. Cookie breakfast. Everybody knows about the cookies. And so, and then the rest of the week I was okay. But I really tried to chase the fork. And so I just felt bad. And so I went to my doctor, and my doctor's like, oh, you have thyroid issues. And I was like, okay. So we put on thyroid medication. And then he's like, and I'm like, nothing really happened. And so I said, okay, well, what's going on? He's like, well, let's test your testosterone. We'll put you on testosterone. And that, now I know what a guy feels like. It's pretty amazing. And so that like helped for a little while. But then it kept increasing my dosage, and I'm like, I'm going to get facial hair, and I'm only in my 40s. Right. So I'm thinking like way ahead. And so I knew something needed to change. And so when I reached out, well, I found somebody on Facebook. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Lori. And what was really cool is like, I'm in because she posted things about people that changed and implemented this program into their life and could maintain that. Okay. And at this point, I still didn't know I had inflammation. So I started, and 3 days after I started, I got out of bed, and I remember this like vividly. I got out of bed and my feet didn't hurt. And I was like, Todd, that's my husband, not some weird guy. I'm like, Todd, and I'm like hitting him. I'm like, Todd. He's like, what? I'm like, my feet don't hurt. My feet don't hurt. And I was like, so happy. And I'm like, it's not my shoes, you know, and I was like way excited about this. Okay. And then the swelling in my knee went down. I thought it was from, you know, surgery. Oh, no, it went down and my knee started to feel good. And then I realized other things in my body that I thought were attributed to being an athlete and exercising was really inflammation, telling me that I was a swollen beast. And I was like, what? It was pushing on so many things. So if you look at the next picture, 2019, this is what it looks like when your water releases from that inflammation, and then things begin. I have never had abs like that. I'm sorry. Not even when I was in high school, right? I was like, oh my gosh, I got abs. So I had to take a picture of them because I don't know how long they'll last, but they're there. And then 2020, this is where once I implemented the program and I was living what I knew and what I was being taught and the skills, and the inflammation was gone. Now I know how it feels if it comes back, if I'm not doing well, because I can recognize like when my feet start to hurt, when I start to swell, and I'm like, oh, I must be like going back to that cookie Sunday, you know, those kind of things. So I love to be strong. And so I love that that last picture is one of my favorites because I have determination to continue to grow within this program, but to continue to grow and share it with others, because I know that people suffer. They suffer all the time and they just don't know. They just don't know. They think it's shoes. They think it's, I don't know, 40s, right? So there you go. That's my story.
Wow, Brenda, amazing. I love the determination and focus in your picture with the weights. I love it. And your eyes are beautiful. This is so incredible. So we want to talk a little bit about what causes inflammation. And, you know, we know cookie Sundays might, but let's talk about some of these things. Steph's going to share with us where our major parts of inflammation come from.
Thanks, Kat. I love this graphic. It's so cool. You know, we live in an obesogenic society, meaning everywhere we go, there's food. And so we have a higher than normal intake of calories, refined grains, simple sugars. I mean, hello, swig, sugar cookies, sodas, high fructose corn syrup. We're just completely bombarded by it. So the food goes in. We also have a high exposure to chemicals, toxins, allergens. There's chronic infections. There's visceral fat. How many of us are carrying on extra body fat? How many of us are tired? We're not getting enough sleep. We're, you know, not moving enough because we have an office job, and then we get depressed. So we go to the doctor for answers and we get put on a depression medication or testosterone or some kind of hormone therapy. And so what we're kind of trying to just shine a light on right now is that there's some other answers. There could be other answers for you. And this is just a big cycle. And I love that this kind of goes in and then it kind of churns. And that's how you feel. You feel like it's just churning. Okay, you can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So our standard American diet, you guys, I love that it's sad because this is kind of how we feel when we're not eating correctly. I don't know about you guys, but when I eat correctly, I start to feel happy. But if you look at this, a big part of our diet is made up of things that our body can't really use or it doesn't really need. See, such a small amount of our diet is made up of vegetables, fruits, nuts, beans, whole grains. But we've got a lot of refined stuff in there. And It's because it tastes good, and it's very easy to overeat chicken and a biscuit crackers. I'm sorry, they're salty and they're kind of sweet. And so we just overeat the things that we don't need, and our body gets full on all of those refined grains, and it doesn't want the vegetables and the fruits and the things that we actually need. Go ahead and move on.
Okay, so what do we do? How can we change the food? In that graphic, you saw that the standard American, only 10% of their daily diet is coming from fruits and vegetables. What we really recommend is making that 50%. Like, the biggest thing you can do right now is just get some more fruits and vegetables into your diet. Anytime you're eating food that has artificial ingredients as well, it triggers your immune response. So all these, the foods that you can find that, you know, if they've got things in there that are not made by nature, you really want to be careful, because it will, as soon as your body recognizes an invader or a foreigner in there, again, it triggers the immune response. So first thing, up your fruits and vegetables. A really good rule of thumb for knowing which fruits and vegetables are really anti-inflammatory, look for the yellows, the oranges, and the reds. So that's your sweet potatoes, tomatoes, that's your pumpkins, apricots. So all of those, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, they have carotenoids, I think. Carotenoids? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that's an anti-inflammatory ingredient. Now, omega-3s also, we hear a lot about fats. In that graphic, we saw 20% of Americans, or 20% of the diets is fats. We are getting a lot of fat in our diets. Unfortunately, a lot of it is unhealthy fats. We're talking about your saturated fats, trans fats, you know, deep fried French fries, that's trans fats. So omega-3s are the healthy fats. They're the harder ones to get in, but you can find them in things like healthy fishes, olive oils. If you're not sure that you're getting them, go ahead and get an omega-3 supplement. This is not something that our body can naturally produce, but omega-3s and omega-6s are the two fats our body needs. Omega-3s are the ones that are anti-inflammatory. Omega-6s are inflammatory. So be mindful about the types of fats you're eating, but you can't go wrong with olive oil. Fiber is a really, really great one to keep your body flushed, to keep everything going through your system. Avoid reusing oils. When you double cook oils, it changes the chemical composition of it, and the fat becomes inflammatory. And then herbs and spices. If you're much of a cook, this one should be fun for you. There's so many good herbs and spices that are anti-inflammatory. Again, I might pronounce this wrong, but well, I guess it's the carotenoids. So here's some anti-inflammatory spices that you can think about adding into your foods. Ginger is a favorite. I love ginger. Rosemary, turmeric, oregano, cayenne, cloves, nutmeg. When we look at some of the cultures around the world that have really good healthy diets, they have really rich spices. So get some spices and play around with it. Also, teas. Our teas are really great. They contain catechins. I think I'm saying that correctly. White tea is the best. Green tea has a good amount as well. Black tea is also on there. And so, yeah, but basically, guys, let's really bump up the fruits and vegetables and try to get the artificial stuff out. Next slide. Okay, so for our environment, there's a lot of crazy stuff coming into our bodies through our outside environment. There's something called sick building syndrome, where there's, you know, if you have all the windows closed, there's just toxins circulating inside buildings. It's really important to open the windows up every once in a while and just air out your spaces. Getting a HEPA filter for your home, so you're not breathing in all these invaders into your body that's, again, triggering your immune response. Sometimes people have a work environment and they'll show up and they notice when they go into that particular building, suddenly they have brain fog or fatigue. That is this sick building syndrome. That's not clean air. So think about your air quality. And then water. I'll admit, I have not really been on the clean water bandwagon. I'm like, you know, I drank out of a hose as a kid. I've drank out of rivers. I'm like, I'm not dead, but I'm committed to being more mindful about this, because as much as I try to not put artificial ingredients in my body through food, if I'm just drinking it in with water, again, it's triggering my immune response. The very best thing you can do, if you have the money for it, is a reverse osmosis filter for your home, or maybe just a filter right on your tap. But really, any bottled water, artisan, you know, spring water, just make sure it's been inspected. But it's really worth it to make sure you're not accidentally putting these artificial and foreigners in your body through water. Noise pollution. Why does this do it? because noise triggers your stress, and stress triggers your cortisol reaction, and cortisol tells your body there's a problem, which triggers your immune response. So if you have a super loud environment, or you're at work and the lady next to you won't stop talking and she's stressing you out, get some noise canceling headphones. Reducing your noise pollution actually can reduce your inflammation. Excess antibiotics. Doctors love to throw pills at people, you guys. They don't have time. If you don't need it and your doctor's like, well, I don't know if you need it or not, err on the side of not putting that extra stuff in your body. Keep your body as clean and pure as you can. And then lawn and closet. We don't think about it so much, but we track a lot of stuff around in our feet. So first of all, be really careful about the stuff you're spraying in your home. If you know that there are maybe chemicals that you're tracking through on your way to home or work, take off your shoes when you get inside. As much as you can, try to keep that a free environment. All right, next slide. Okay, and then finally, internally, what can we do to reduce stress internally? So I was mentioning before the stress response. This is where we really can have some control as well. Did you know that a nice bath and some yoga can reduce your inflammation? Again, it's because we're reducing that stress response, that's cortisol, which is telling your body, hey, everything's cool. You don't need to send white blood cells out. We're not under attack. So anytime you can reduce your stress, it's really going to be beneficial. But by far, the biggest, most effective, fastest thing you can do to reduce your inflammation is exercise. Exercise is like the mega habit, and it doesn't have to be crazy. Studies have found that even just 20 minutes of walking a day, when your body is exercising, it's a crazy chemical process, but trust me when I say this, when your body exercises, it releases one chemical that tamps down your creation of white blood cells in another area. So if you're inflamed, going exercising can actually overcome that white cell blood release, and you can feel immediate effects of reduced inflammation through exercising. So those are just some tips on how to really look at things in your life right now and maybe start seeing some effects right away. All right.
Sarah, before we go to the next slide, I just want to throw in a thing for meditation here.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
Quiet time is one of the biggest things that has become part of my life. I used to think I was too busy to stop, and by doing less, sometimes we gain more in our lives, and getting outside of that busy constant stimulation is really a powerful thing. Even if you only do it for 30 seconds or 1 minute or 5 minutes, whatever you can do is just to breathe and center yourself. And there's a lot of different meditation practices you can find online, and there's apps, and there's podcasts. There's so many different ways. Find something that resonates with you. And that's one thing I'd love to challenge everybody on this webinar. Meditation has been a very big part of combating some inflammation in my life. So I would just challenge people to do that. It's just one thing I wanted to share before you introduce our next speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kat. Yeah, it's so powerful. Next up, we have Heidi Walker, who, again, there's so many aspects of how inflammation can show up and change your life. And so, Heidi, would you mind just telling us a little bit about what that's been like for you?
No, I'd love to. Thank you, Sarah. So 5 years ago, I was just really struggling physically and emotionally. My dad had passed away about 5 years before. He had 3 types of cancer, and he had diabetes, but we thought everything was under control. So when that happened unexpectedly and suddenly, it just kind of threw me for a whirlwind. And it just really made me question, because we have diabetes on both sides of our family, all over the place. It just really made me question my health and if I was going to be around for my kids. And anyway, I'm going to try not to get too emotional, but I knew that I had a sugar addiction and I was an emotional eater. And I knew that that was affecting my husband and my kids' health. And I just thought, I've got to do what I can to prevent what I can, right? Genetics plays a part, but really our choices play the bigger part. And so I knew that I needed to be proactive with my health. I had numbness in my toes, you guys, for years. And I knew that was crazy, but the doctors never even told me that I was pre-diabetic. I'm sure I was, but anyway, the doctors knew that something was wrong with my blood work, but they never gave me any answers, and they never even asked me about my diet. So I kind of felt really lost and hopeless and needed some answers. So I reached out to a friend who was doing a health challenge, and that took a little bit of courage, but I tried out her nutrition plan on this program. And within a week or two, the numbness was gone, the inflammation was gone. I haven't had, I was having debilitating hip pain, and I haven't had hip pain, joint pain, or numbness for the last 5 years since I learned how to feed my body correctly. And I was able to then get pregnant with my we had our fifth baby, and I was 39 years old. So I was kind of nervous about that, but honestly, it was my healthiest pregnancy ever. And so when I I lost over 30 pounds before that pregnancy, and then I lost, over 40 pounds after that pregnancy. Then I had people reaching out to me and saying, you've got to teach me what you're doing. So anyway, but this program, I think one of the hugest blessings was that it helped me to have a healthy relationship with myself and with food. And I learned how to eat simply and in a balanced way that reduced that inflammation and helped me to have energy. And I learned to love and respect my body. And so now food is fuel, and I eat to live my best life instead of living to eat. I don't feel like food controls me anymore. Maybe homemade cookies, like someone was mentioning, that is the one weakness that I feel like I haven't quite overcome yet. So I was kind of nervous. I took my kids out on kayaks the other day, and when I lost my weight, I got these little kids kayaks because they hold like 135 pounds is the most. And I thought that's a good motivator for me to keep my extra weight off. So I had my husband get those for my birthday, and I went out on those the other day after quarantine. I was a little nervous, I have to admit, but I did not sink. So apparently I've learned something on this program, but also exercise is no longer a punishment. I used to over-exercise. That's when I had my debilitating hip pain, was when I was trying to run off the weight. And anyway, so now I just have energy to be a fun mom. And that is, honestly, that was my why, was just to be a fun mom, to have energy to play with my kids, and to be a role model of health to my family and my children. So anyway, it's been 5 years of making lots of fun memories and being active with my family, and I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. You look younger now than you did 5 years ago, and so much more healthy and happy. I love it. Like we talked about earlier, the effects of an overactive immune system cannot be felt overnight. And so Steph's going to share with us why we're here and what long-term health looks like. You're muted, Steph.
Thanks, Kat and Heidi. I related so much to your story. I was just nodding the whole time because I've experienced so much of that. And, I used to really focus on short-term health. I would do every 90-day challenge that came around. And at the end of the 90 days, I would go right back to what I was doing before. So I was kind of stuck in that familiar yo-yo. And one of the things that was so amazing about this program is I remember my coach telling me right at the beginning, you can't mess up a healthy lifestyle with one cookie. And I was always looking at my health in the long-term perspective. It's the first time I'd ever done that. And I love that. So we really have a simple anti-inflammatory plan that can help you with all aspects of your health. We believe in lifelong transformation, one healthy habit at a time. You guys, you can't ruin that with one weekend of crummy eating. And we all have had those. And I think that we can tend to do that and then beat ourselves up for a month or 2 months or a year. And when we have a long-term perspective and it's a healthy habit program, that means we can jump right back in when we're, the next meal. And so what's next? Go ahead and move to the next slide, Kat. I love the 4 components of our system. This was so amazing for me because what this does in my mind is it builds a solid foundation underneath us, because the winds of life are going to blow. And I have done so many programs that work in the short term, but what happens is when life gets stressful, everything flies out the window and I go back to my bad habits. And so when I started this program, I really worked on giving my all to all 4 parts of it. And they're all just as important as the other. We have independent Optavia coaches that help each of our clients. We have a health system. We have a community that's amazing, and we have fuelings. So I like to think of these as my tool belt. And I've got these things in my tool belt, and I'm wearing this belt full of tools now that help me in my life. Next slide. Oh, Sarah's going to talk about how important it is to have a coach. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, this was huge for me. I had never really, I'm very independent. I think I can do everything by myself, right? But that being said, I had spent the past 13 years of my adult life yo-yo dieting, and every time I yo-yoed, I got more and more and more. So yeah, I could lose the weight. I proved 20 times I could lose the weight. And finally, it's like, wait a minute, I might be missing something here. So with this program, everyone gets a buddy. And your coach could be someone who is just starting their program as well. Your coach could be a fitness professional who's looking for ways to help their people. Your coach could be someone who has been maintaining a healthy weight using this lifestyle. But the idea behind the coach is it's someone who's committed to this process with you. They're going to have ups, they're going to have downs. When you're struggling, they get it, because we all struggle with this. And so the coach is there to keep you accountable with what you want. You tell them what your goals are, and they're there to cheer you on. And sometimes, your coach is going to help you reframe. You'll come to your coach and say something like a thought that maybe you think is true, and they're going to ask you a question and maybe help you reframe and think, hey, is that actually true? What if something else? So the coach is a really good sounding board to help you actually do what you say you're going to do. And those little tiny bumps don't become huge molehills. You just get right over them.
So true. And I love that my coach introduced me to the Habits of Health Transformational System. This is the education piece of our program. And it's really interesting because I was one who I kind of thought I knew enough about nutrition and mindset. I was always into personal development. I've always been trying to improve myself in a lot of different ways. I was always into this. And it's really interesting because I'm just going to jump right in from this perspective and share my story right now. So I'm an athlete. I played 2 sports in college, and I thought I knew how to outrun my fork. And when I was 38, so 7 years ago, almost 7, I guess, almost 8, you guys, I'm getting older. I don't feel older, but anyway, it'll be 8 years in September. I was playing volleyball with my dear friend Amber, and I had just had my 4th baby. I had just finished doing a clean eating plan for a certain amount of time, and it was all natural, whole foods, and I actually gained weight while I did this instead of losing weight. And I thought I knew everything about nutrition, and I saw these people around her losing weight and feeling better. In the same token, I had my 4th child. We have 4 boys. I had just started playing sand volleyball again. It's one of my favorite things. I played volleyball in college and have played sand for as long as I can remember as an adult. And it's my favorite thing to do. And I remember sitting next to Amber, my knees swollen. Like, just every time I played, I had so much fluid on my knees that I would like squish it around, and it was gross. And I went to several orthopedic surgeons. They're the specialists in knees, and I know that they're very talented in their own ways, but not one of them asked me what I was used to weighing. Not one of them asked me what my nutrition looks like. They just wanted to get in, drain my knee, give me a cortisone shot, or, Kat, you need to stop playing volleyball, or you're going to keep having surgeries. And I don't like what surgery is like one of those acute inflammation things for your body that's not fun. And my body didn't like that, and I didn't like how it felt. And I was starting to get cortisone shots probably about every 3 months in one of my knees. And I was starting to get kind of nervous, thinking, I'm going to need a replacement by the time I'm 45. And I saw people around me losing weight that were working with Amber. And I thought, I wonder if I lost weight, if my knees would start feeling better. I just wonder if that would help me. And I said to Amber one day, I said, I think I've got to get this weight off. I think it'll help my knees. And she said, you better believe it'll help your knees, Kat. And as you can see, I didn't look, for me, it wasn't about how I looked. It really wasn't. It was about how I felt. And even looking at my midsection and my chest and my chin and neck and everywhere, I was so inflamed. I was holding on to so much fluid. I totally relate to what Brenda said. When that water finally releases, you're like, oh my gosh, there's some muscle under there. This is amazing. Anyway, I was able to release 35 pounds, And that would be over 120 pounds of pressure on my knees when I walk. When you jump, I don't even know the calculation for jumping. And I have not had a cortisone shot since June 30th, 2012 in my right knee. And I have managed with the education piece, which I'll show you a little bit of this, is learning how to manage my weight with a healthy weight management, habits of healthy eating and hydration. And it's really interesting because a lot of times we come into a program or a process and we think like it's the destination. My weight was, for me, it was, if I can get this weight off, I'll be fine. That was the destination for me. But it was really only the first step in getting healthy for me. Was losing that weight was just the first step in the rest of my life. And then I started learning about, while I was losing weight, I was learning about healthy eating and hydration. I felt like I was pretty good at healthy motion, but I started adding in things like yoga and meditation and things that maybe weren't so comfortable to me because I was so competitive. Sleep was something I totally ignored, and I've learned so much. I'm still working on that. Habits of a healthy mind. And as I've gotten into this, and any of you who know me personally know that I obsess about growth and fixed mindset. And there's just not enough that I could learn. Like every time I learn something, I realize how little I know. And the habits of healthy surroundings, all of this education piece, we get to take a bite-sized piece at our own pace with the Life book and Dr. A's Habits of Health as a companion. And it's such an incredible, powerful piece of the program that I think a lot of people maybe aren't, they're like, yeah, I don't want to, it looks like a college course, these big books. I don't know if I want to dive into that, but do. Like if you're questioning, or if you're a client and your coach keeps asking you what element you're studying in the Life book, dive in, because it will do nothing but improve your life. I'll skip past my picture again for you.
Thanks. I'm going to talk a little bit about community because it is my favorite part of this program. This girl on the left belonged to a community. You guys have probably heard of it. It's called CrossFit. And I was going there every day and it was really fun. And I was surrounded by people who were really pushing me. But the problem is I felt like junk. I just didn't feel good. And I thought I was doing the best I could. I was eating as healthy as I could, but I was carrying around 40 extra pounds that I couldn't lose. And what does weight loss and inflammation have to do with community? And it is for me that when I found this community and I found this system and it worked, I lost 40 pounds in about 4.5 months. I've never felt better. But what happens is those winds of life blow, and sometimes you go back to old habits, even as coaches that know better. You guys, you have these big books and you know everything, but sugar cookies still taste good and holidays are still around, right? And so we fall off the wagon. And then what happens is inevitably our community is like, hey, we miss you, come back. And you feel like, what's missing in my life? It's those Habits of Health Zooms. Those were the thing that helped me get the weight off in the first place, realizing I wasn't alone. I was 39 when I did this program. So that means I had 39 years of old programming in my head. Like I didn't realize that I was going to have to work on this the rest of my life. And I didn't realize how fun it was going to be. And that I was going to make all these amazing friends. My Facebook support group has been so helpful for me. I love getting in there and cheering people on, and I love being cheered on. And I love our online events like this. I learned so much about blood sugar balancing on our last one. Things I thought I knew everything about. I learned so much. But most of all, I surround myself with amazing people who motivate me, who love me, who support me. The community is just the best. I can't say enough good about it. Thanks, Kat.
Oh, man, I wish all you guys were, I wish we were all in a room right now. I'm so glad that we're able to hear all these stories. But yeah, and now the fourth part of this whole tool belt, I love how you described it like that, is the nutrition, okay? We want to keep it simple. We want to keep it structured. We want to make it possible for anyone to be able to, like we're hearing, in even a week to feel more energy, less fatigue. So what this looks like is long-term, we're teaching everyone a habit of eating all throughout the day. Think about driving your car down on the road, and a foot slow and steady on the gas pedal, never giving it too much, never giving it not enough, just keeping your body completely even keel all day so your blood sugars are never out of balance. So we don't have those sugar spikes that's causing inflammation. So how do we do that? First is this meal that we're going to teach you how to make. Remember how I'm talking about bumping up your vegetables? You guys, it's no joke. Sometimes we start working with people who literally like haven't eaten a vegetable in a week. It's really important to teach people a skill. The baseline skill we're teaching is a meal called the lean and green. And this is like your baseline skill. We keep it really simple. We give you a big list of healthy proteins, a big list of vegetables, and we teach you how to start creating good baseline meals. And we're also teaching you about healthy fats. What are healthy fats, and making sure you're not getting too much of them, because you can really undo a lot of work if you accidentally dump a ton of unhealthy fats on top of it. So that lean and green meal, depending on which program you're doing, what your goals are, you're making 1 to up to 3 maybe, depending on your program. But it's a really simple skill. Now, the second thing that we're offering is making sure that anyone can do this anywhere. You're going to do the thing that is simplest to do, right? If it's too hard, even if you love it, it's not going to be sustainable. For our clients who are either in weight loss or maintaining, we have really amazing tools. They are protein carb balanced, nutritionally complete, completely free of artificial ingredients, fuelings. There's like 80 different kinds of them probably, but what they do is you can grab them to go anywhere, you can put them in your car, but they really help make it possible for you to achieve this balance and start seeing low inflammation. I'm a chocolate girl. I did my weight loss back in 2012, and I ate a lot of the chocolate flavored products because that's what I like. Some people like more the soups, the pastas, the pennies, but the idea with these is they're portion controlled. They're completely free of artificial ingredients. You don't have to count calories or carbs or macros or anything. Basically just set your timer and keep your foot on the gas all day. And we make it really simple to do that. All right, next slide. Oh, Steph, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I got myself off mute. So how to get started? Contact the person who invited you. Reach out to them. They're going to do a health assessment with you where they're going to talk to you and go over maybe what you've tried in the past and what your goals are. They're going to maybe just paint a picture for you of a life that you can create. And I still remember my health assessment. You guys, it was so beautiful. I just was so negative and I had tried everything. And when I got off the phone, I felt this little glimmer of hope. It was such a beautiful moment in my life. And, you know, your coach comes along, and I think what they do is they believe in you, and then you start believing in yourself, but they believe in you until you believe in you. And your coach helps you get your order placed, and they help you get started. It's a really cool process because they link arms with you right from the get-go, and you know you've got somebody on your side. It's pretty amazing. Okay, Sarah's going to talk to us a little bit about how do you want to live?
Yeah, just a little more about my story. You know, I was a mess. And, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And the people all around me were a mess too, because it's 2020 and our country is getting more and more unhealthy. So the fact that I had been a lifelong insomniac, the fact that I had been on antidepressants for 7 years, the fact that I was a binge eater, I was getting more and more overweight. I had no energy. Like, that was just kind of like, oh, this is just what it is to be a mom and life is hard. But it was so amazing for me when I started living this way and I started learning how to create healthy sleep and how to be mindful of my fats and just really falling in love with vegetables, honestly. Like, I love vegetables. But I lost my 40 pounds with this in a little under 3 months back in 2012. And for 8 years, you guys, I wake up every day and I have a choice. And I can go back to old habits, but you know what? I really don't want to. So I have decided to really dig in and commit with this. And it took a while for my brain to really get to the point where I could let go of this fear of going back to old habits. And finally, you know what helped? I had gotten to my maintenance, but I had yo-yoed so many times. I just had this fear and I couldn't really celebrate. And you know what finally did it is when people started asking me, hey, can you help me? And I was really nervous to do it because I was like, but what if I go back? I've gone back so many times. I didn't want to let people down. And I realized it was now my choice. It's not something that was just going to happen or not happen. It was something I could choose to happen or choose not to have happen. And when I made the choice to start helping other people with that, that is when I made my commitment to myself that I wasn't going to go back to that. It wasn't worth it for my kids. It wasn't worth it for me. You can see in this picture here, part of the reason I started the program was because I didn't have the energy to play with my kids. And they wanted, my youngest wanted me to teach her how to ride a bike. And I couldn't keep up with the bike running down the road. And she was so disappointed in me. And this picture of me running across that finish line, that was when I reached my healthy weight. And my reward to myself was running my first triathlon. And when I got to that finish line, my kids joined me. Oh, and they ran across with me. Whew, but like, it's been so awesome. So I have decided that my commitment is not just to myself, it's to my family, it's to my friends, it's to my community. Yeah, we're all getting crazy here. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, so what does that look like? If anyone really wants to just dig in deep with this, you have an option to help us out as coaches. If this is something that you want to be committed to at any point in your journey, if you decide that this is something you want to not just be committed to personally, but you want to pay it forward, our company, Optavia, needs people who want to help. If you like people, if you like the idea of trying your hardest until you die to have your best life possible, team up with us. You can help as many or as few people as you want. We cost nothing to our clients. They pay us nothing. It's basically like if you go to Sears to buy a washing machine, they can buy it online for $600 or they can buy it through the store. But if they go to the store, they have someone who can answer their questions, make sure they have a good experience, help measure it for them. And the store gives them really good compensation to make sure they have a good experience. That's exactly how we're paid. You only coach if you want to help people. There's literally no other reason that you would want to coach. If you don't want to help people, great, go do something else. Go open a donut shop, send me some clients. But if this is something that's important to you that you want to dig in with, you have an opportunity to deepen that commitment here. It has been so amazing for me, especially now as a single mom, to be able to have a job that is literally just my phone. I get paid to just be a support crew. I get paid to be vulnerable. I get paid to basically just like team up with people on this. And it's been incredible. Last year, I was able to build my business while me and my girls hung out in Costa Rica for 3 weeks and I had my calls. I was in the Bahamas for a while. I was in Mexico for a while. It's real freedom, and the quality of enjoyment of being able to help people really overcome huge debilitating medical issues with this. It's just incredible, and it's a really proven system. So I highly recommend, if you have any interest in that, chat with the person who invited you and see what that might look like for you. Because for me, it's been the difference between me going back to old habits and making that commitment to myself.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I love that all the talk of going back to our old habits is so interesting when we really start focusing on creating a new life. It's like we think about those old habits like it's a totally different person. And I saw people in the chat like, I don't even recognize you. Who is this person? And I have seen so much growth. I've been blessed enough to know Sarah for about 6 years now, and I've seen so much growth in her and seen her go through some hard times. And same with Steph. These women have become some of my dearest friends, and it's not just about, it becomes not about you. It becomes about what you can bring to Optavia for other people. It becomes about all the other people and what they can bring to you. And I know that you get everything in life helping other people, everything you could ever want in your life, helping other people get what they want. And I know that's true. And one of the biggest things I'm just so grateful for is something so simple, just to kind of wrap this all up, that has helped me feel better. Because I don't believe we're supposed to hurt. And I'll be 45 this year. And my body feels better than I did at 35. Probably even maybe better than 25, maybe not, but close. And I just know this has grown immensely, and I'm so grateful for that. So we hope that this was of some value tonight for you. It looks like we could answer some questions, but before we do, if anyone wants to put some questions they might have in the chat, we have a few minutes. We're trying to make sure we are under an hour for this. But if you have any questions that you'd like answered in the chat, throw them in while I'm introducing you to the next webinar that's coming. We're super excited about this. You guys, It's going to be so fun. So Thursday, July 2nd, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 Mountain, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. We do realize it gets late over there on the East Coast. But you guys, this is going to be amazing and special. This is people who, when the quarantine, COVID-19 stuff happened, that people decided to take charge and control of their health. And we're just going to share a whole bunch of inspiring stories of transformation. We're going to hear from people and see some amazing changes and stories and creation and things that have happened because people just made one decision to take charge of their health. So, okay, I'm going to see if there's any questions that we see. And does anyone, do either of my co-hosts see any questions in the chat? Is there any difference between green, yellow, and red peppers? That is a good question that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, so there is. Basically, the color is just indicative of how long they've been on the plant. And the darker the color, the more nutritional benefit it's going to have. So the greens taste good, but if you're specifically talking about inflammation, go for the yellows and the reds.
Interesting. And they all taste delicious. All right. Well, we appreciate, I don't see any other questions popping in, but thank you so much for spending this time with us tonight and sharing your stories. Thanks to everyone who participated. And let's all go out and live our best lives and maybe just add one thing you heard today, just one little tiny micro habit that you can do differently to help your life be a little bit better. Take care, everybody.